More than 5 million Jews live in the state of Israel. What took Hitler 5 years to implement through the final solution could take just a few hours to accomplish should Iran acquire nuclear weapons. Since the Holocaust, American Jews, the strongest, most prolific Jewish community in the world, have learned what is expected of them. They remember well how little was done by America's Jews to save their brothers and sisters during the Nazi Holocaust. A new generation of activists has arisen, determined never again to repeat those mistakes. They have taken to heart the words of the great Talmudist, Rabbi Joseph B. Soloveitchik, who became a religious Zionist after the Holocaust, because Jews, he said, can no longer be passive passengers in somebody else's vehicle, but must learn how to drive their own future, becoming active partners in converting their fate into destiny. Some have great difficulty in accepting this new role of activism and have begun a campaign to vilify and cast aspersions on the right of American Jews to speak up for the security of a sister democracy and America's only dependable ally in the Middle East. An example is the recent resignation of Charles Freeman, President Obama's appointment to head the National Intelligence Council, responsible for coordinating all of America's intelligence operations. He was involved in such charges. Freeman's credentials were questioned by Jews and non-Jews, including congressmen, United States senators. They didn't like his relationship with Saudi Arabia and his support of the Chinese government Tiananmen Square policy. But Freeman ignored all of this. And when he held a press conference when he was forced to resign, he put the blame squarely on the Israel lobby for his resignation. And this is what he said: "The libels on me show conclusively that there is a powerful lobby to prevent any view other than its own from being heard. The tactics of the Israel lobby plumb the depths of dishonor and indecency. The aim of the lobby is to control the policy process to the exclusion of all options with decisions by Americans in our government other than those it itself favors." This is not a novel idea. It is also the line being used by John Mersheimer, professor of political science at the University of Chicago, and Stephen Wald, professor of international relations at the Kennedy School at Harvard, in their book, The Israel Lobby and U.S. Foreign Policy, who argue that at the core of the Israel lobby are American Jews who make a significant effort in their daily lives to bend U.S. foreign policy so that it advances Israel's interests. Apparently, Mersheimer and Wald do not want to grant to American Jews what they regularly grant to the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and millions of other Americans, because to them, American Jews who support Israel have an unworthy political agenda and simply cannot be trusted. In 1938, a young boy, Eric Lucas, was uprooted from his home in Nazi Germany. This is how he recalled it. "It was a cold, dark February morning when I left Germany for the last time. I was the only passenger who boarded the train at the station. I rushed to the window to look for my parents. They stood in the distance but could not come to the train. I waved timidly, full of fear, but even that was too much for the guards. a man in a black uniform rushed up to me and said, "You Jewish swine, one more sign or word from you and we shall keep you here." And so I stood at the window. In the distance stood a silent, aging couple to whom I dared neither speak nor wave a final farewell. But I could see their faces very distinctly. A few hours before, just before they took me to the train station, my father and mother laid their hands gently on my bowed head, invoking the traditional ancient blessing that God let me be like Ephraim and Manasseh. Let it be well with you, my child. Do your work and duty, and if God wills it, we shall see you again. Never forget that you are a Jew. Do not forget your people, and do not forget us. My boy, added my mother, you know that you will never be far away from me, as tears streamed down her kind and sad face. It was the first and last time I had seen them both weep. As the train pulled out of the station, I leaned my face against the cold glass of the window, and I wept bitterly. Eric Lucas arrived in London in March of 1939. He desperately tried to bring his parents to England, but was unsuccessful. He received one final letter from them, in which his mother wrote, "We shall never see you again. Was there no space in this whole wide world for us, two old people? I hope we shall not live very long now. There is nothing left to hope for. We are so lonely and so forsaken. Was there nobody who could have helped?" 3 years later, Eric Lucas' parents perished in the Holocaust. What happened to the parents of Eric Lucas and to the 6 million others will never happen again. To the president of Iran and his supporters all over the world, we say this: you're not the first to attempt to do this to us. We met up with your ancestors many times in our 3,500-year history. We were burned at stakes, persecuted in the Crusades, forced baptized in the Inquisitions, robbed and pillaged in the pogroms, gassed in the crematoria. Even in your land, in ancient Persia, Haman plotted to destroy us. But we survived all of them, depositing them in the dustbins of history, as we shall survive you, undeterred and committed to building a civilization based on tolerance and human dignity in spite of you, a civilization worthy of passing on to our children and grandchildren until the end of time. Thank you.